and they said, we want to make something for the fans. So I said, all I wanted to do was tell a story of what happened.
Since Disney took over Star Wars, it's been a wild ride of highs and lows. Can you believe it's already been 9 years since The Force Awakens hit theaters? I still remember the thrill of sitting in that packed cinema, watching my first Star Wars film on the big screen, alive in real time with so many others. The energy was electric, a pulse of excitement filling the room as we all experienced the saga continue. There was this unspoken promise in the air that anything could happen next, a whole galaxy of possibilities opening up before us. That night it felt like a page out of those classic videos from the Phantom Menace documentary, where fans dressed up, cheered and celebrated, swept up in something bigger than themselves.
This is fucking awesome! Yeah!
That memory of mine is pure cinema magic, but since then that glowing magic has slowly begun to burn out.
Luke, we are what they grow beyond.
Comparing the attitude towards Star Wars then and now is, I'm not gonna lie, beyond painful. Even when reminiscing about the anticipation for Episode 8, I would say that it was some of the best times to be a Star Wars fan. With the Snoke theories, the leaks, the discussions that made every day exciting. Then we also had Rogue One premiering in the middle of it, one of the most appreciated movies in the community, with the final act being some of my favorite Star Wars ever. Everything seemed to go as planned, with new movies and projects on their way, and it truly felt like the Star Wars fans were seen as an united front. But then we all know that The Last Jedi rolled around. I think it's very naive to call this one movie the sole reason for Star Wars' downfall, yet it was certainly a symbolic moment that changed the trajectory of the franchise. It was bold and tried to take Star Wars storytelling in another direction, yet the balance between new ideas, respect for the source material and the characters was something that turned out to be much harder than anybody initially thought.
I don't know about surprise. I was just nervous. I was like, oh gosh, I hope they like it.
Rian Johnson was quickly labeled as quote-unquote not understanding the world of Star Wars, and this one sentence seems to have continually haunted the universe far, far away ever since George chose to hand it over to Disney.
The galaxy is counting on us. Solo, we'll figure it out. We'll use the Force. That's not how the Force works.
Perhaps there was an unrealistic expectation to believe that Star Wars would stay the same and that everyone else could grasp the world like the one who created it. On one hand, most fans seems to understand it quite well and being very loud on social media when others don't, but on the other hand, can we really say what counts as Star Wars beyond just the label it carries? As a comparison, I don't think it's very wrong to view the original and the prequels as two different kinds of movie trilogies. Of course there is a through line in the story, yet the feeling of the prequels is very different. Much larger scale, a lot more world building, etc. In retrospect, Star Wars has only been consistently defined by one matrix, and that's the mindset of George Lucas. I wasn't old enough to experience the prequel hype that quickly turned into hate, and I certainly wasn't old enough to experience the original trilogy, so perhaps my opinion is kind of flawed here, but undoubtedly Star Wars has always been at the forefront of technology, always discussed as something quote-unquote never seen before, pushing the boundaries of visual storytelling, because ultimately that's what George was passionate about. It might have been corny at times, weird almost all the time with questionable choices of dialogue, but it was always something new, and this is the key point I think Disney has completely missed. And when you look back, it was perfectly illustrated in The Force Awakens when they chose to create a movie that was scarily similar to its predecessor.
Our job's done here. Let's go home.
I keep emphasizing the animated Clone Wars when I discuss this topic, because I think the show symbolizes the power of experimentation and trust for the creative process. It's truly one of a kind, a show that tried different genres, music styles and cinematography, a show that ultimately evolved from all aspects together with its audience, and today is seen as a legendary part of the universe. Yet I have a very hard time believing that anybody today would have that kind of creative freedom, endless amount of trial and error, and especially money. Ultimately, Clone Wars was too expensive, had too many highs and lows, and that's why it got cancelled. So what I'm saying is that a show like that would never be created today, at least not through a company like Disney, and therein lies the problem.
You fought in the Clone Wars?
Yes. I was once a Jedi Knight, the same as your father.
When you think about it, Star Wars before Disney never actually played it safe. George has always advocated that he made these movies for himself, and that he was lucky that people enjoyed them. This involved what the big money companies today views as taking unnecessary risk, choosing characters that the general public wouldn't dream of, and basically not always giving the audience what it thinks it needs. From this perspective, it's actually very tragic that a movie like The Last Jedi that was something new and different turned out the way it did. You can disagree with a lot of things in that film, but you can't deny that it was brave, and if it would have worked out, it would probably have paved the way for a more, let's say, adjustable future, where experimentation and out-of-the-box ideas wouldn't be viewed as a death sentence. However, it once again brings us back to the balance of things, and the dilemma of continuing a franchise, of not creating the same while simultaneously involving respect and understanding the same aspects, something The Mandalorian actually managed to do, at least in the early stages of its existence.
You know, our team, our AD team, our directors, we're experimenting with this new combination of technologies for the first time.
Starting with the launch of Disney Plus at the end of 2019, it felt like a new era, as the franchise took an exciting, fresh direction. The introduction of the volume technology opened up new storytelling possibilities, and at the same time, the Clone Wars was gearing up for its final season. With groundbreaking stories emerging on multiple fronts, Star Wars was back in the spotlight, continuing this momentum right up until the Book of Boba Fett. However, the limitations of the volume were quickly reached, almost hindering the grand scale of Star Wars to be captured. And since then, this mindset of George Lucas, of always pushing the technology and trying new ideas, were shying away. Ultimately, the Disney Plus formula, also cleverly stated as the quote-unquote marvelization of content, visually but especially in the writing, became way too predictable. It creates this bittersweet feeling of the past, and makes me reminisce about the cinema experience 9 years ago. Me as a little boy seeing the epic future of Star Wars ahead of him, thinking about the endless possibilities. Today those possibilities, I would argue, are still there for the taking, but Disney has to understand that the fundamental nature of storytelling is to let go, of not controlling the content, to rather embrace it. In the end, it's about evolving. Andor, for example, isn't loved by everyone and wasn't a huge financial success, yet it was something different that I think succeeded with continuing the franchise while having a new, more grounded take on it. It didn't try to move beyond the past by ignoring it or contradicting it, rather to build on it and expand the universe we all love.
The pace of repression outstrips our ability to understand it, and that is the real trick of the Imperial thought machine. It's easier to hide behind 40 atrocities than a single incident.
I much more prefer that they have slowed down the content train and taken a step back to reflect on what to do next, because Star Wars has bounced back before. It has done it on multiple occasions, with the Ewok hate, the quote-unquote downfall of the prequels, the Clone Wars cancellation, the sequel mess. The list goes on. So to end this video, let me know what you would like to see next in Star Wars and how they could make it better in your opinion. And if you want to watch some more positive stuff about this franchise, you can click on one of these videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you will have a great day.